Okay, hello again, everybody. I see we have Supervisor Stork with us and a few more attendees. So in the name of everybody's time, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Chris Wells. I'm the Active Transportation Program Manager for Fairfax County. With me tonight is Claudia Lana of the Virginia Department of Transportation. We'll share our presentation tonight, but before I get started, I have a script to read of how we do virtual meetings. First and foremost, please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube when it's done. So you'll be able to access it from our project webpage and online via social media such as Twitter and Facebook. You are welcome to submit questions using the Q&A feature. We will take questions at the end of the night, so submit questions to the Q&A function of WebEx at any time. We'll do our best to get to all questions when we get to all participants. If we run out of time, we'll follow up with any unanswered questions with replies directly to attendees or by posting the Q&A on the project webpage. Please do not use the chat feature to submit your questions, as the Q&A function will send your questions to all the administrators of the session and will help us keep questions organized and in one place. If you are on the phone, please hold your questions to the end. We will have instructions on how to ask questions at the conclusion of the presentation. Also at the conclusion of the presentation is contact information for your comments on today's meeting and feedback, written or via the internet. So for now, I'd like to go ahead and hand it off quickly to Supervisor Dan Stork of the Mount Vernon District Board of Supervisors Office to give us opening remarks.
And thank you, Chris, and thank you all for being here. This is actually one of the more important meetings we have every year because the kind of questions we get routinely are about potholes and paving, and ultimately about transportation in general, whether it's active transportation or cars and vehicles. This is the time, this is the place to tune in and focus in on those questions and concerns and ask kind of where we are and why we are where we are in terms of the plans for this coming season. I thank both Claudia and Chris for their work. I had seen this presentation a little bit earlier, so I'll be listening in for a while, but then I have another meeting. Just want to let you know that we also have Diego Rodriguez Cabrera, who's works in my office, and he'll be on for the whole time. So if there's anything in particular that we need to follow up on, Diego will for sure will do that if Chris or Claudia, it's not appropriate for them to do that. But we're here for them, and let us know how we can help you. Thank you.
Unmute, sorry. Thank you, Supervisor Stork. Okay, so real briefly, let me give you a little bit of background of what this is, and then I'll hand it off to Claudia for her portion of the VDOT presentation. So for over 10 years now, VDOT and the Fairfax County Department of Transportation, Fairfax County in general, have been collaborating on the summer paving season. The basic premise here is roads are owned and maintained by VDOT in Fairfax County. The roads being paved are basically a blank canvas, so that when the new asphalt goes down, the striping could either be put back as it is, or it could be put back in a different way that could benefit the community. So 10 years ago, the original focus was on bike lanes, the beginnings of bicycle network in the county. But over the last few years, we've really refined our process, realized that there's a lot of other community benefits, that most citizens are not bicyclists, and they do care about things such as cut through traffic and speeding in their neighborhoods. And so we also know that by the visual narrowing of the roadway with bicycle striping, bicycle lane striping, or parallel parking striping, helps reduce excessive speeding in the neighborhood. So this is really a win-win. It's really a good news VDOT story. I always remind people that VDOT has a lot of responsibilities, and this year with the snow plowing, always people always wonder, when's my road going to get paved? And this is really a good or plowed, that is. And so this is really a good news VDOT story where they work with us and bear the cost of these changes of striping, but in the end comes out real positive for the community. And so over these years now have also allowed us to really establish throughout the county over a couple hundred miles of bike lanes as well. So with that, I'll hand it off to Claudia. My coworker Lauren is running the WebEx behind the curtain, so she'll hand things off to back and forth between us, and she'll read the questions to us at the end. So thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and good evening, everyone. My name is Claudia Lana. I am the VDOT NOVA Director for Transportation and Land Use, assigned to Fairfax and Arlington counties, and I thank you for coming here tonight. As Chris said, we do a lot of collaboration between VDOT and Fairfax County, and this is a perfect opportunity to talk about how we do that. First, I'm going to be speaking specifically about the VDOT paving program. And as the agenda shows, I'm going to start first with the Northern Virginia District paving program and budget. Then I will move to the more general statewide program to talk about how we plan and construct the paving, how the roads are selected for paving, how we determine the pavement condition and rate it so that we use that information to make decisions on which roads get paved, which is a very data-driven process. I'll talk briefly about the types of paving treatments that we apply, and that depends also on the road condition. I'll talk about pavement dashboard, meaning the performance of the different road systems over time. And as Chris said, we collaborate regarding the pavement markings and striping. There's the standard, and then there's the enhanced. And then I'll provide some information of how you can get view some of the paving maps and conditions map, as well as how you can reach VDOT in general for different issues. The Northern Virginia District Paving Program includes 14,000 lane miles in this district. As you can see, Fairfax County with 7,150 miles is the largest of the 4 jurisdictions in terms of lane miles. Fairfax County alone is more than Loudoun and Prince William County together. In Arlington, VDOT only maintains the primary roads. Arlington County maintains the remaining roads. In terms of the budget that are assigned to Northern Virginia, over the years between 2013 and now, it has varied, and we assign different amounts for the various road systems, interstate, primary, or secondary. The total amounts is, if you look on the right column, you'll see that the amounts were relatively low at the very beginning in 2013, have increased progressively, and between last year, 2020, and this year, 2021, there was an increase of about $3.2 million. Mostly it went to the interstate system, some to the primary, and less to the secondary system. And I will explain how those decisions are made coming up. In terms of the planning, yearly, in this time of the year, we're already gathering data for the next calendar year, for 2021. In summer and fall, we take the data that has been gathered, we put it together into bid packages as we make decisions on which roads need to get paid. We in the Northern Virginia District send those packages to our Richmond central office, where they compile the bid contracts that are put out to the contracting community. Those are advertised for bids. Bids are received and evaluated, and a selection is made about which contractors will be given the work, and contracts are executed. Also, beginning very shortly, the actual paving begins, and for this calendar year, 2021, we have started to do the pre-construction meetings. And in April, the actual paving work will begin. In order to decide which roads get paved, we evaluate several factors. One of the main ones is the condition of the pavement. Also the traffic volumes. We avoid locations where there's going to be an existing project. For example, Rolling Road project is going to get widened and the whole road will be reconstructed. Therefore, we don't do repaving in that particular location. We also avoid locations where we know that there will be large utility projects. Another thing that we do is we compile together areas that are close by. If in a neighborhood, a main street has been determined to be in very poor condition and needing repaving, we also address the roads around it that also need repaving. This gives us economies of scale so that we don't have the contractors driving around, but would rather spend his time and our funds in paving rather than traveling. As you can imagine, our maintenance crews are out there very frequently and they're familiar with what the pavement conditions are in different areas. So we get feedback from them as well in our decision-making process. In Northern Virginia, we have basically two very highly qualified PhDs that review all the data that is gathered and help us make those decisions about which roads to pave. As this slide shows, in terms of how we collect our data, we use these very specially fitted GPS-enabled vans that has cameras that can view under the road and to the sides under the van and to the sides, and gather data about the pavement distress, rutting, texture. This information is collected digitally and put together in reports that are shared with our staff that make the evaluations. That data is used to determine the condition of the pavement based on a system that we call Critical Condition Index. This was developed first in about 1998 by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and we have found it very useful and have adopted it. The CCI, or Critical Condition Index, goes from 0 to 100 for the different roads, 100 being excellent and 0 being very poor. If you can see the slide on your screen, we use color codes to determine, to match the condition with its rating. The ones that are in roads in excellent condition, as you will see in a map that I'll show you shortly, are shown as in green, and those in fair condition are shown as yellow, and moving down to a reddish color to a deep red for very poor condition. Roads that have a CCI of 60 or better are grouped into the sufficiency rating. And we look at the percentage of roads that are in that sufficient condition for the different road systems. This data is collected more frequently for interstate and primary roads. For those, we send out that specialized van, which is contracted out annually. And for secondary roads, we used to collect 20% each year. So normally it takes about 5 years for us to collect data in the entire secondary road system. Beginning this year, we're grouping some of the high volume secondary roads, such as Braddock Road, those roads that have AADTs, or average annual daily traffic, in excess of 3,500 vehicles. Those we're treating differently. We're collecting the data annually. The reason for this, as you can imagine, is that interstate and primary highways have more volumes, people travel faster, therefore, in order to avoid crashes and to take more care of those roads that have higher traffic, we do have higher goals for them and also inspect them more frequently. This slide refers to the performance goal, or the percentage of the network that should have a CCI greater than 60. For all roads with high traffic volumes, or those that exceed 3,500 vehicles per day, we are seeking a goal of 82% with a sufficiency rating of 60 or better. For lower traffic volume roads, the goal is a little lower. For primaries, it's 75%. For secondaries, it's 60%. This doesn't apply to interstates because no interstate have lower volumes than 3,500 vehicles per day. This is the slide that shows dashboard or the performance of the different road systems over time. You can see that we have generally increased on interstates, which are the ones shown in red. It's leveling off now. And we are, for both interstate and primaries, last year, the rating came up at 83% sufficiency rating, meaning we are just above our goal. For secondary roads, we haven't done as well. And it's basically based on the amount of funding that has been available. Fortunately, for 2020, the rating increased to 59%, which is approaching our goal of 60%. In this slide, there's a listing of the different pavement types that are used depending on the road condition and volume. Preventive maintenance is basically a type of treatment that stretches the life of the pavement. It can be slurry seal or latex. It can be patching, which is not as extensive, but this is much better than filling potholes. It's using a hot mix rather than the cold mix used for potholes. And we also routinely seal cracks. Again, all intended to extend the life of the pavement. And it's used on roads that are either in lesser volume or not in as bad condition. For depending on the volume and condition, we also use plant mix. Corrective mix, we do a little bit less milling and overlaying than for those where we're looking to restore. And then the most intense treatment is full depth reclamation, which is almost a rebuild. Even the base of the road may need to be reconstructed. That is only used rarely when the road is in such bad condition that we have to dig down below the beyond mill and overlay. This slide shows a pavement condition map. It can be found at virginiaroads.org. In this particular slide, there is a location somewhere in the neighborhood of Herndon, and you can see that the roads have different color codes. The green are the roads that, according to the inspection and data collection, are in good condition. Blue is excellent condition. Fair is yellow. And the red and pink are those that are in fair or very poor condition. And those are, poor or very poor condition. And those are the roads that are candidates for repaving. This particular slide shows that there is nothing on the left side. And that is because this is a town of Herndon. They do their own maintenance. So we don't rate those. This slide shows what a paving status map looks like. In particular, in this location, this is a 2020 statewide paving status map. And when the 2021 map is out for the public to view in April, in less than a month, you'll be able to see which roads in your neighborhood are getting paved. In this particular case, there is a view of, if you have clicked on this particular road, Raymond Road, you would be able to see the phone number, contact information for the project manager, the VIDA project manager that is managing that paving map. On the right, you can see information about, depending on the color of the road that is getting paved, whether it is in progress, it has been completed, or it's still pending. In either case, if it is shown in one of these colors, red, green, or blue, it means that that particular road is scheduled to be paved in that year. Okay, Chris had made reference to striping the pavement. It's like a fresh canvas. And the typical, more common way is to, once the road has been repaved, to replace in kind. In other words, put back what was there before, with some minor adjustments as needed. For example, adjust a crosswalk or add an edge line. Occasionally, we make some adjustments or changes for safety and operational improvements. For example, lengthen a turn lane or create a new turn lane. In the occasions when we do that, again for safety or operational needs, we also have to make sure that the pavement underneath can handle the new load of actual traffic driving over it. The next type of pavement marking is where we collaborate with Fairfax County DOT and Chris and his staff, looking for opportunities for changes such as Chris referenced, bike lanes or road diets, or sometimes improve pedestrian improvements such as new crosswalks. And Chris, of course, will be referring to that after my presentation. This slide shows where you can report a road problem or submit a maintenance request. You can call 1-800-4ROAD, which is managed 24 hours per day. That's our customer service center. Or you can go online to myVDOT, which you find at my.vdot.virginia.gov. In these places, if you see the need for a sign to be replaced or repair or a pothole or things that you see need attention, you can call us or enter your information in these two sources. What I've included here also is how you can find the pavement condition map at virginiaroads.org. You search under web maps. You can find both the pavement condition map and the paving map. As I mentioned, right now we only have the 2020 paving map, but in less than a month, the one for this year should be uploaded. And if your road is scheduled to be paved, a couple of weeks before that happens, you will see signs being placed next to the curb, letting you know that that is happening, and also asking you to not have cars parked in that area. And it will be very specific in terms of the date, so it'll be clear to everyone. With that, I thank you for your time and ask you to please stay safe. And we'll turn it over to Chris for the next part of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. Give us a second here to switch presentations. Okay, hopefully you can see my presentation. So again, I'm Chris Wells, Fairfax County Department of Transportation. We have a partnership with VDOT, and what I'm going to go over tonight is our proposed striping modifications, a summary of what we're doing, the benefits, and then we'll take the questions and answers at the end. Oops, oh yeah, that's my direction. So, sorry, let me minimize that. Okay. So again, I mentioned what it is that we're doing here. So the first part of it is we're trying to implement the Fairfax County Comprehensive Plan. We have a bicycle master plan and a goal in the county to help with our traffic issues by making it as possible as possible for folks to be able to walk safely and bike safely in the county. In the Mount Vernon district, we've actually had a lot of success over the years adding bike lanes as part of this summer repaving process. And the basic idea is that when we get the draft list of roadways from VDOT, we look to see what roads might there be that are too wide. They're either 2-lane roads that have very wide travel lanes, very wide parking areas, or 4-lane roads that really don't have the traffic traffic volumes that need the capacity of a 4-lane road. What we found though over the years is that there's these other community benefits that really a majority of the population are interested in. And so we have been able to put that all together and have really improved the way we work with VDOT. In the past few years, VDOT has a consultant actually engineering out all these plans, striping plans. And so things such as turn lanes and intersection corners and everything are much better delineated as part of this process. Again, ultimately, our involvement is intended to have the bicycle network be more complete. Our bicycle network consists of off-road facilities such as trails. Coming in the future in Mount Vernon District as part of the Route 1 project will be what's called a cycle track, which is a parallel bicycle facility with parallel sidewalk, so bicycle only facility. And then we have these paving paving opportunities to get bike lanes as part of summer repaving. The most interesting thing about this summer repaving thing is it's about the most cost-efficient thing we do as public sector. Typical trail projects cost millions of dollars per mile to build. The impacts of retrofit construction in our county are very complex, and it's essentially the same as widening a road, an entire lane on one side to build a trail next to a road. So typically what I work on is that aspect of what the county does. The county has funded $536 million over 20 fiscal years to add pedestrian and bicycle projects. But unfortunately, that's nowhere near enough. We get a sidewalk request just about every day, certainly every week, and we don't have the resources to respond to those. So this summer paving program that we work with VDOT is really exciting. It's also very dynamic. It happens very fast. As Claudia said, their process in paving is year-round. They're literally already looking forward to summer of 2022's paving needs. But we have these meetings at this time of year because this gives us just barely enough time to do striping changes before the trucks start coming this summer and paving the road. So again, it's a very cost-effective process. There is a cost. It's tens of thousands of dollars, throughout the county. Maybe it totals $500,000, but again, versus our cost to build a sidewalk or trail these days, which is $5 million a mile or $10 million a mile. This is an extremely cost-effective process, and again, one that has shown benefits. And I'll talk about those in a minute. One other aspect is that America has focused for 4 decades, since the 1970s, on, I guess that's 5 decades now, on bicyclists in the wrong way. We focused on the on-road bicyclist, the type A cyclist, the confident cyclist that is comfortable riding in traffic. And so traditionally all we've done is bike lanes on major roadways, and Mount Vernon District, Beulah was one of the very first in the county. But we know that most citizens are not comfortable riding their bike next to 45-mile-an-hour traffic, and certainly families with kids certainly not. So what we're really going towards in the county is best practices, and America is actually moving in the same direction of best practices, which is to build comfortable and safe facilities that are typically off-road of high-speed, high-volume roads, because we know that a large percentage of the population, as you see in the graph here, 53% of the population is interested in bicycling, but they're concerned about their safety. The other thing we've wrongly focused on for decades is just the commuter. Can somebody commute to their job on a bicycle? And of course, we have a very large county, 400 square miles, and it's not reasonable to think that people are always going to be able to commute to their jobs. But it is very reasonable to give them the opportunity to do things within their community, such as go to a store, go to their places of worship, go to parks, go to schools, and do that on a bicycle without using an automobile for that trip. So what are we talking about here? These are the basic types of on-road markings that we use, and even though I said that we're on higher speed, higher volume roads, moving to off-road facilities, we know that that neighborhood streets, quiet streets with low to moderate volumes are perfectly comfortable for average people to feel comfortable biking on the street. So what we've done in the past few years is what you see on the right is introduce something called a buffered bike lane, and is where we have enough room. We can do the traditional bike lane striping, and a traditional bike lane is 5 feet of bike lane. But if we have a little bit more room, we can introduce a buffer like you see there of 2 to 3 feet or so. And that's a buffer between the bicyclist and the cars. And that just creates, again, a much more comfortable environment. The middle photo is the standard bike lane, which I'm sure you're all familiar with by now. And when we have parallel parking, and we almost always do not affect parallel parking because we know how important parking is. And when we have a travel lane, often we only have room for a bike lane in both directions. And sometimes, as you'll see in some of the streets, we have to ride in one direction. And then when we don't have room for a bike lane, but say the block before it, the block behind it, there's a stretch of the road that narrows, we use the indication you see on the left there, and that's the SHARO, or the shared lane marking. And that indicates to motorists that they should expect bicyclists in the road. We can also place that SHARO to the right if the lane is wide enough to indicate to the cyclists that they can keep to the right and there's enough room for cars to pass. Or conversely, if the road is too narrow, that the SHARO should be in the middle to indicate to a cyclist that it's actually safer in this block or so that the SHARO is there to take the lane. So again, I talked about some of the benefits. We created this infographic here. The top left is sort of obvious. Bike lanes definitely increase the comfort and safety of people cycling. But in the top middle graphic you see there, it shows how it increases pedestrian safety by minimizing the exposure to traffic, by narrowing that part of the roadway that the cars are on. The distance that the pedestrians are exposed to those cars is reduced, and so that reduces that exposure risk to pedestrians crossing the street, either in a crosswalk or just crossing between house to house. The top right it is giving an indication of how it's actually becomes more comfortable to walk on a sidewalk when there's a bike lane and a buffer next to you, which again keeps that car 5-7 feet away from you when you're walking on the sidewalk. The lower left is talking about how the bike lanes can help reduce traffic and speeding in neighborhoods. And I don't want to oversell this issue, but here's what the data has shown. Engineers use something called the 85th percentile of speeds. And we found that when we do before and after studies, the 85th percentile really doesn't change that much, maybe 1 mile an hour or 2 miles an hour. But what the data does show, and this is hugely important to the safety in communities, is that the excessive speeders, those vehicles that are traveling 15 miles an hour or even 20 miles an hour or more over the speed limit, they can be effectively eliminated by striping these bike lanes. It's a visual trick to the mind when the lane's narrow and the road is narrow, but also, there's, drivers have everyone has different mindsets when they're driving, and drivers aren't necessarily trying to be evil and drive way too fast in a neighborhood. But when a road is wide open and unstriped, you don't have to pay as much attention, and you have that ability to drive faster. And so the data that we've collected really shows that excessive speeding is essentially eliminated. And then the lower right graphic, if your house is on one of these roads that gets bike lanes, shows a typical concern, but it also shows the improvement in the sight distance of pulling out. Engineers, we use something called a sight distance triangle. It's the triangle of vision that you have around obstructions, such as parked cars. And again, when those vehicles have been moved towards the center of the roadway, that sight distance is improved. So the bike lanes actually help your sight distance pulling out of your driveway. So here's a before and after picture of Annandale Road in the Mason District. Annandale was a wide 2-lane road with wide travel lanes, and the after picture really shows the improvement. So the travel lanes are typically narrowed to standard 11-foot lanes. We're able to delineate the parking areas, so you see the 90-degree squared off parking that ends at a bus stop, because you're not supposed to park at a bus stop. And then the radius of coming out of the other side, the left side of the street there, where it indicates how cars are turning out there, and then how the bike lanes fit in there. We use on the right what's called puppy tracks, those little dash dots, to indicate that's how you're supposed to merge and make a right turn into the bike lane. And again, you can see the before and after difference of a much more organized street environment. So for this year in 2021, as I said previously, we've actually done many roads over the years in Mount Vernon, and we are beginning to get some connectivity between some of these roads in the network. This year we have three roads sort of off the Route 1 corridor, and then one road along the Route 1 corridor. So the 3 roads over in the Lorton area are Laurel Crest Drive, the VDOT portion. The other portion of Laurel Crest Drive is not being paved. Wernside Street between Pohick and Telegraph, and CINDERBED Road from Newington Road to its southern end. And then at the other end of Mount Vernon District, up at the top of Route 1 at the Beltway, is Old Richmond Highway. And I'll show you pictures of each of these and go over what we're talking about. So CINDERBED Road is mainly industrial office between Newington and the southern end. Its existing conditions are 2 to 3 travel lanes. It does have a sidewalk on the west or the north side, but no on-street bike facilities. But as you can see in the photo, it is plenty wide. The after photo will look something similar to this photo here, where we'll have bike lanes in both directions, 2 standard travel lanes in each direction, and there's essentially no on-street parking in this area. Laurel Crest Drive / Dudley Drive. The existing conditions are, as you see in the photo here, a shoulder section with a grass shoulder off of the asphalt shoulder, 2 travel lanes in each direction with dedicated turn lanes. There is a trail along the north / west side, and again, the wide shoulders. And so the area we're talking about is from Hoos Road to the golf course entrance. And what the proposal is for Laurel Crest Dudley is something that you see here, where you have the shoulders converted to bike lanes where there's no parking needed or desired. And again, the standard travel lanes in each direction with the turn lanes remaining, the three-lane cross-section of turn lanes and travel lanes in each direction. Old Richmond Highway between the traffic signal for Fort Hunt and Huntington Avenue is 2 travel lanes with parallel parking, a sidewalk on the north side and some sidewalk sections on the south side. No bike facilities, and the on-street parking is mainly on the north and west side with a few spaces on the southeast side. The proposal for Old Richmond Highway would be as the picture is shown here, with bike lanes in both directions, removing the parking spots on the south and east side of the road, and then maintaining the legal parking on the north/west side of the road. So as you can see in the photo there, there's, excuse me, on the left, there's striped out parking, the bicycle lane, 2 travel lanes, and then again, the bicycle lane in both directions. Whernside Street between Telegraph and Pohick is a residential collector road through multifamily density housing. There's 2 travel lanes in each direction, sidewalk on both sides, and definitely on-street parking on both sides that we will maintain. So the proposal for Whernside is to add a bike lane in the one direction, and then we maintain the legal parking, legal on-street parking on both sides of the road. So one of the questions we're often asked is, will you be taking parking? And parking is extremely important and extremely sensitive in our county, so generally we don't. However, full disclosure, as I said, it is engineered. So if there's bus stops, if there's other areas, fire hydrants, things like that, that people are parking illegally at today, even though they may not know it's illegal, those areas will be better delineated by the striping. And so, the full answer is yes. A few parking spaces may disappear by the striping, making it more readily apparent that they're not available for parking. Although again, we're just reflecting the laws that restrict parking. So one other aspect of this, and I should have probably mentioned it earlier, is pedestrian safety. Pedestrian safety is a hugely important thing in this county for the Board of Supervisors. I personally have had the pleasure of working on this issue for the county since the pedestrian program was created in 2002. And what we have been able to do in the most recent years in working with VDOT is to programmatically look at these roads that are being paved and look at the existing crosswalks and see if we can upgrade those to the high visibility block pattern that you see here in the photograph. However, one of the purposes of tonight's meeting is to get community feedback from you all. So what our staff will do is look to see obvious pedestrian generators such as elementary schools, things like that, activity centers. But if once the paving maps become live so that you can review the roads that are being paved in Mount Vernon, if you all see a road that needs there's been a long-standing community request for a crosswalk or something like that, please do let us know about that and pass that on to us, even if it's after the comment period is closed. Because that's the type of thing we do want to try and react to. What you see in this picture here is what we call a median refuge island. And that's a concrete island that actually effectively breaks the crossing of a roadway into 2 separate crossings. You look one way, gauge the traffic in one direction, cross to the island, and then you can look in the other direction, gauge the traffic in that direction. We have a very limited opportunity to do a handful of priority projects such as this throughout the county each summer. We don't technically have a line item budget, but we realize the importance in trying to make these improvements to coincide with the paving. because if we were to introduce an island like this, the striping needs to also reflect the fact that there's a concrete island there, so the double yellow flares out around the island. So we can't promise that we can do these at a priority location, but again, if there's an area that lends itself to that, such as having a center left turn lane that wouldn't block anything by having an island such as this, again, please give us that type of input as part of this process to see if we can do that as part of this summer's repaving. And if not, then we'll have that on our unfunded project request list for future transportation funding. And we can always come back and add that. It's just if there's an opportunity to do it this summer with the paving, that's the most cost-effective way to do it. So with that, I will go to the community feedback information on this slide and the contact information on the next slide. So there's two parts to this presentation. So if you have comments about paving, you want your road paved or other type of things for VDOT, this is, as Supervisor Stork said, sort of a once-a-year opportunity for folks to have an audience with VDOT and let them know of something that needs attention. The best way to reach VDOT is they have a very robust customer service portal. It's my.vdot.virginia.gov, or by calling the phone number 1-800-4-ROAD, which is 1-800-367-7623. If you have striping related comments based on what we in the county have proposed, you can reach out to us. And that's on the next slide. We ask that you give us your comments by March 29th, but again, we work for the taxpayers, so you can give us suggestions year-round, of course. On this slide is our direct contact information related to paving. So you can find this presentation will be posted in the next few days on our Department of Transportation website, which is fairfaxcounty.gov/transportation/2021 paving and restriping /Mount Vernon/feedback, or you can just go to the county's webpage and Google and search 2021 paving, and that'll take you there. Our direct email for comments is activefairfax@fairfaxcounty.gov, or you could send comments and questions to us by mail to our office address, which is there on the screen, Fairfax County Department of Transportation, 4050 Legato Road, Fairfax, Virginia, 22033. I'll leave the screen up. You can take a picture if you want it. And again, it'll be on our webpage. So at the beginning of tonight, when I read my script, I said I would go over how we handle questions if you're on the phone. First of all, if you're not on the phone, if you're on the computer, again, please type your questions into the Q&A window of WebEx. But if you're on the phone, you can press *3 to raise your hand, and you'll be added to the queue. So with that, I will, I think if I stop sharing, then it goes blank on us. So I will keep this screen up, but I will turn off my video and mute myself, and my coworker Lauren will read us the questions, and Claudia and I will answer everyone's questions.
Thanks, Chris. I think the first question is for you. Are all bike lanes 5 feet wide? Is there room to add buffers on any?
Sure, that's a great question. So I don't have the engineering plans here with me tonight. We do try and vary that within reason. So typically they are 5 feet wide. We do want to try and get a buffer, so that would be the next feature we would try and add to it. So typically a buffer is 2 to 3 feet. But if none of the roads we went over here tonight are a 4-lane road that's being taken down to 2 lanes. But what we have learned in the past when we're converting a full car lane into a buffered bike lane is we want to make sure that it doesn't look still like it's two little tiny car lanes squeezed in there. So what we found is the better thing to do would be to actually leave the one remaining car lane even slightly wider, like 13 feet or 14 feet, and then have a more proportional buffer and bike lane, maybe equal, like 4 feet of buffer and 6 feet of bike lane or something like that. So to answer the question, typically we are looking at that 5 feet. We're also typically in the parallel parking areas, we're looking at 7 feet, not including the curb, or sometimes including the curb. So it really depends on the width of the roadway, of each of these roadways, and unfortunately, roadways aren't always the same width the entire lake, so sometimes it varies. So that is engineered into the plans.
Thanks, Chris. The next question is also for you. On Old Richmond Highway, commercial vehicles routinely park illegally. Even the Google Street View shows a tractor trailer parked in the no parking zone. Is there an enforcement plan once these bike lanes are in place, or will the enforcement only rely on resident complaints, which is time consuming and doesn't seem to deter people from parking illegally?
Sure, great question. I was trying to make my PowerPoint go back. Oh, there we go. So that's the existing. The proposal is for the bike lanes in both directions and maintaining the parking on the one side. So, I am not an expert in our commercial parking restrictions. We do have some limited ability to restrict commercial parking in the county. But what the striping will do is eliminate the parking on the one side, so they'll no longer be parking on that one side at all. And then the remaining parking on the side that has parking, unless there are restrictions, would still be open. So that's unfortunately, if it's commercial parking that is not legal, that is an enforcement thing for the police. Sometimes there are vehicles that don't meet the definition of commercial vehicles, and so even though they may not be desired, they are actually legal. But I other than stating those basics, I shouldn't say anything more because I'm not an expert on that. What you can do is contact the Mount Vernon District Board of Supervisors office to see what opportunities there might be for the county to institute any restrictions. But again, my understanding is it's fairly limited as to what we can do.
Thank you. The next question is, are there any plans to add bike lanes to Ox Road /123 from Lorton to Fairfax?
No, there are not. That facility was built with a shared use path on one side. And so that is a fairly long, continuous shared use path. And portions of that road are at least 55 miles an hour, if not 60 miles an hour. And so, no, that is not the type of facility that we would be adding bike lanes to.
Thank you. The next question is, will any striping across Backlick Road on CINDERBED Road be added? A crosswalk or signage or a rapid flashing beacon? It is a high-speed road that is scary to cross on bike or on foot.
Backlick at CINDERBED. I'm trying to picture it. Backlick comes down and CINDERBED. There's a signal there, correct? So I don't think that's on our paving list. If that is a signal location, which I think it is,
I don't think it has a signal, Chris.
It does not. Okay. So thank you for that suggestion. Lauren and I can take a look at if there are opportunities there, and if it's being paved, and we just don't have it on our presentation tonight because it's not a candidate for a road diet, then I should have mentioned this as part of my presentation. We do have to justify crosswalks. Crosswalks do have to meet engineering standards. So we can't just put them everywhere, but there's a process that we work with VDOT to do that engineering study. So we'll take a look at that intersection, first of all, to see if it's on the draft paving list, and even if it's not, see if there's a proposal that could be forwarded for that. Thank you.
So I guess follow-up statements to that question. Are there plans to add bike lanes to Backlake Road? Sorry, follow-up question, Chris.
Sure, I'm sorry. I keep hoping Claudia gets a question. We don't have plans right now. The Fairfax County Parkway Trail does run along part of there, and then you actually do ride on road on Backlake. So I do recall us having some discussions about it being paved, but I don't believe it had or on the draft paving list, I don't believe it has the width to allow bike lanes, but I believe we were talking about shoulders. So we can get back to you directly from your email logging in tonight, and I can have our bicycle program manager follow up with what the thoughts are that could improve Backlake. Part of Backlake is busy, and part of it is actually somewhat is a dead end. So I do recall us having some discussions about that earlier in the season, but I since it's not on our presentation tonight, it must not have had the room for bike lane striping.
Thanks, Chris. Another one for you. Are there plans to add bike lanes or paths to Fountainhead Regional Park and Hemlock? Many people are biking on the shoulder.
I'm not aware of any, but Fountainhead Regional Park is managed by the what used to be called the Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority, Novi Parks now. So the one that's a good input for something else that I work on, which is our active Fairfax transportation plan. The county is in the process of combining the countywide trails plan and the bicycle master plan into one plan, the active Fairfax transportation plan. We are in the outreach, the initial outreach phase of that. And again, you can go to our county's website and search for active Fairfax plan. We have a survey that you can take and an interactive map that you can draw things on. But Lauren will take note of that request tonight. And again, Nicole Winans is our project manager for that as the bicycle program manager. We can add that to consideration for the planning of the active Fairfax plan. But if there's any plan, I'm using the word plans to different contexts. So that's the comprehensive plan, the long range planning for the county. If there are any short-term plans to do something, that would fall under the Regional Park Authority, and I'm not aware of it.
Thanks, Chris. Another one for you. Will we add bike lanes to Franconia Road? And I promise I'm not picking on you. There's just no questions for Claudia.
No, I'm joking. That's the way it goes. So Franconia did get some bike lanes a couple years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, as part of the paving process, in particular the 2-lane section of Franconia. We would have to take a look to see if there's any other paving going on. So since it has bike lanes in part of it, it would be a good candidate to extend that, but I just don't know off the top of my head whether there's it's any sections of it are on the draft paving map, and I don't think it is. And again, the other end of Franconia, the western end, becomes a very large, high-speed, or not high-speed, but a higher volume, large road that I guess it is 6 lanes, so it may not need to be the capacity of a 6-lane road. So maybe in the future, when that section of it segment of it is paved, that's something we could consider. But we can follow up with you by email and see if there's any plans for Franconia at all for this year.
Thanks, Chris. I have a raised hand from a call-in user, so I'm going to unmute that person now. So go ahead and ask your question now, please.
Hello. I just have a quick question about the Old Richmond Highway bike lanes. Just out of curiosity, since that strip of the road is so short, what is the exact rationale for that? Is it related to access to the Wilson Bridge? I'm just curious. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a funky little place. So that is absolutely what we've done. When we've done counts down there, we've seen a lot of bicyclists that are traveling on Huntington, and they'll turn into Old Richmond Highway there to get up to the signal at Fort Hunt to access the trail into Alexandria or onto the Wilson Bridge. So it's when you're on foot or on bike, you definitely tend to take the shortest distance possible. And so that it may seem like an isolated section of road, and you know, ultimately that's the nature of the beast with this paving process. It's being paved. Is it wide enough? Yes, it is. Is there some benefit? In this case, it's not speed reduction. It's really making that safer bicycle connection for those folks that are coming and going out of the Huntington Avenue corridor, trying to get to the excellent bike facility that was built as part of the Woodrow Wilson Bridge.
Thanks, Chris. I have also that Jeanette has her hand raised, but she did ask questions in the Q&A. So Jeanette, could you let us know if you have an additional question? Her hand went down. Great. Okay, so I think that is all the questions we have at this time.
So hello there, this is Diego Rodriguez from Supervisor Stokes' office. I actually have a question. I have a question for both Claudia and Chris. It actually pertains to one of our most used roads, Fort Hunt Road. So for our bike riders, there's been a lot of dissatisfaction with this particular road being bike rider friendly. So as an office, we're wondering, are you looking at widening Fort Hunt Road during the paving process or expanding and creating shoulder lanes?
Diego, this is Claudia. From the perspective of widening road, no, this is not something that is being done as part of the repaving. The paving strictly takes the road as it is and applies the treatment that is necessary based on its conditions. And the pavement markings are either replaced in kind or, depending on coordination with Chris and his staff, road diet or a bike lane is added. So from the part of your question about widening, no, that is not part of this program.
Yeah, and let me just add, I mean, Fort Hunt has been is a frustrating corridor, and certainly has been on the county's radar for 20 years or so. It's a natural parallel route to Route 1. So today's Route 1 versus today's Fort Hunt. Fort Hunt is a better place to ride a bike, obviously, than Route 1. There's a lack of sidewalks. There's a lack of trails along Fort Hunt, and unfortunately, very little opportunity to build them. Many of the yards are steeply sloped and have gravel ditch sections and gravel shoulders. So all of our construction is challenging. All of our construction is retrofit, but we've never really made much traction in the Fort Hunt corridor. The light at the end of the tunnel is actually the Route 1 project, the BRT project and the Route 1 widening. That will have a cycle track for the entire 8 miles of Route 1 between Fort Belvoir and the Beltway. And of course, the Fort Belvoir portion that was widened has a trail now also. So as Claudia mentioned, the paving process, you know, when they pave the road, they might pick up 4 inches on the side or something as it's paved, but there's not a process really to reconstruct the road or to build things such as proper shoulders or bike lane shoulders, and so it's going to continue to be a challenge for everyone.
Chris and Claudia, this is Dan. I hear you and I understand that, but I'm not willing to accept that. And I know that Scott Sorrell and Paul Krizak and all of us, I think, feel equally strongly about it. So I think at a minimum, what we're asking is that you add whatever inches you can to the width of that road when you pave it, much like you did when you repaved Mount Vernon Memorial Highway. You made it slightly wider, but you also gave it a little bit of a road diet so that there was striping there, that there was clearly a place for a bike rider to be without feeling like they're going to be run over. And so I think at a minimum, in fact, I'm going to ask for a meeting to literally get out on Fort Hunt Road for us all to look at that with Paul and Scott and talk about what do we need to do to finally address that issue, because it's not going to go away. And I also recognize how difficult it is. Chris, your point's absolutely well taken, and Claudia, I understand that there's not a lot to work with, but it's not acceptable anymore to just throw up our hands and say, well, we don't know how to do it, and take Richmond Highway or go over to the Parkway, when we know that both of them are not really supported, don't support the bike ridership that we need for our area. So I'm not sure the best way to proceed, and maybe I should ask both of you, how would you like to meet with us to walk through that and to see what needs to be done to address that?
Well, certainly, Supervisor Stork, you make a good point. If there is the opportunity to shift that edge line, even just a foot, that's actually something we proposed on Who's Road, and it does make a difference. So Claudia and I can check and see if that road is being paved this summer, if there is an opportunity, and certainly we would welcome a field review with you and the delegates and senators. You're absolutely right. Desire to use Fort Hunt as a bicycle facility is not going to go away. It's a perfectly rational and desirable route to take, north-south through a significant part of the Mount Vernon district.
And Chris, I believe there is a portion of a segment of Fort Hunt Run that is in the paving, in the draft paving.
Yeah.
Number one,
that's why I'm bringing it up. Yeah,
right,
it's in there now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can, number one, verify, because a lot of what determines whether or not you can add something is what is the width now and what more can be done. But it's definitely worth a look at that portion that's already in the draft paving plan. Number one, is it remaining in the finished plan? And number two, how close are we to being able to add a few inches? Definitely worth a look at what are the possibilities. It probably was not considered in Chris's path based on the width of the road. I don't know how much, Chris, I don't know if you recall whether or not that was one that was considered or not, and it was a road width that did not allow it. But anyhow, Chris and I can definitely start working on that portion that's already in the draft plan and see where we go, and we'll keep you informed.
I appreciate that. I know there's really not a lane, there's not a bike lane there, Chris. I'm not that I'm happy about that in saying it, but I recognize that's kind of reality without some But I know with the repaving that's likely to be there, we can at least optimize every bit of what we have to give bicyclists a little bit more comfort. Because even the trails through there, I ride this a fair amount, so I know the area pretty
Right.
well. So the trails in there are not that great. The trails need repaved in there. But at least I know Scott is a big bike rider as well. So he and I have talked about that and seen it on the paving trail. And I'm sorry I didn't see it earlier when we had our other conversation. I didn't see it earlier. I would have raised it earlier with you all, but.
Nope. Thank you for bringing it up. That's exactly
Yeah.
what we're looking for tonight. As I said, if we don't, to answer Claudia's question, I don't recall if we reviewed it again. If we would have seen that the lanes are wide, then we would have considered
Right.
moving that edge line stripe over. So if they're, depending on the lane widths today,
Right.
if they're 12 feet or preferably, wider, 14 feet. We do have bus service. I just looked real quick on the map. So we need to maintain a minimum lane width of 11 feet when we have transit bus service. But that would be the engineering tool that we could look at. Is there a way to narrow the lanes to 11 feet, and how much room then would be left over for even a tiny shoulder of 2 feet or something is better than just having all that asphalt dedicated to the cars.
Yeah, you're hearing me. That's the key. I'm going to ask Diego to set up a meeting to meet down there for at least a key part of the paving area, so we can have a first-hand conversation about it. How much time do you all need to have somebody look at this so you would be able to meet with us and talk about it, effectively?
I think that the first thing we're going to do is go out there and measure what the current road width is, and to see if there's anything that can be, what's at the edges, and whether a few more inches are feasible. I think I will work with our paving folks to give me some feedback on the time that they would need. Can we get back with you on that? I'm sending a text before the end of today to the team to see what they respond.
That'd be wonderful. And if you could just follow up with Diego, and the section of road we're talking about literally varies widely itself, with some that's very kind of old road which is narrower, and others that are a little bit wider. So you're going to see through that area, you're going to see lots of different parts. Some of it you could do something, some of it you may not be able to do something. And I guess what I'm looking for is where we can do something, at least if we can reduce the amount of time that a bike rider is on a section of the road that's not as comfortable. I think that's still a benefit and still an improvement that I think our riders would appreciate.
Okay, and we'll coordinate with Chris,
Excellent.
Chris and I and our staff and see what we see and then respond to what would be the next step.
That'd be excellent.
In the portion that seems to be in the plan, confirm that it's in the final plan, and then move from that.
Yeah. Okay. I know Diego had at least another question too, so I'll shut up and let him talk.
And Diego, before you do that, I just want to ask that it seems like we have another question from someone on who's on the computer. If you can type your question in the Q&A box, that's the preferred method for answering questions. We just offer that call-in users can raise their hand since they are not able to type in since they're on the phone. Thanks.
Yeah, that actually gives us a better record of the meeting tonight. So, Lauren, I'm sorry, is there another Q&A question from a participant?
Not at this time, but there is a hand raised with more questions. So if Diego wants to ask another question, we can do that first.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll ask the follow-up question. And this pertains to Route 1. So what sort of mechanisms are we looking to improve safety features for our bike riders along Route 1?
Are you referring to the widening project? that is being,
Yes, to
that's
to the widening project,
development?
but also right now currently with the repaving in terms of what the buffer would look like, the distance from vehicles.
So I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit. I think you said what are the bicycling features to make improvements to Route 1. So the Route 1, there's two Route 1 projects, but it's essentially the same design for both of them. There's the widening portion from Fort Belvoir to
Hey, Chris, let me just interrupt. He's referring to the repaving portion.
Oh,
Just the repaving. He's familiar with the BRT, and like
okay.
This is strictly about the repaving that's scheduled for Route 1 in Lorton.
So in past years, the section down in Lorton was repaved, and we added bike lanes south of Fort Belvoir to Lorton Road and Armistead Road area. I'm not familiar with if sections of Route 1 being paved this year. Diego, what section in particular do you have?
Yes, so I was looking along Lorton Road, almost parallel to Old Colchester Road. That portion of Route 1, almost near or at the border of Woodbridge.
Down the southern portion.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So I'm not familiar with any proposals to add anything down there. Again, that's a higher speed portion, but there's also there's not a lot of extra width down there. We were able to add the bike facilities from the Telegraph Pohick intersections down to the Armistead portions because of the number of lanes and the widths of the road. We can take a look at that portion to the south that is what I would describe more south of Gunston Road. But since we don't have that in our presentation tonight, we were certainly not proposing it, but we can take a look and see what portion is being paved and to see, again, similar to our discussion about Fort Hunt Road, is there an opportunity to at least create a shoulder or something that that is there?
Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Okay, so we have another question that in the Q&A. Are there plans to put a bike lane or path to connect a section where cyclists are bike uphill on a 50-mile-per-hour road, which Gunston Road? I think our cyclists are biking uphill on a 50-mile-per-hour road, which is Gunston Road. It's on the way to Pohick Bay Regional Park and Mason Neck Park.
The quick answer is no. With that, what you're referring to is something called a climbing lane, and we actually, if we only have a room for one bike lane on one side, we do what's called a climbing lane. But a 50-mile-an-hour road is unfortunately not the type of facility we're trying to do on-road facilities on. And I'm not positive if Gunston Road is being paved, but what we are doing on the whole peninsula out there is trying to build an off-road shared use path. So if you've been biking down there, I'm sure you're familiar with the sections that have been built from the Pohick Bay Park down to the federal Mason Neck Park. We do have plans. We have a project that's in our county's transportation priorities plan to extend that shared use path all the way out to Route 1. So unfortunately, that is not something that's coming immediately. The board did include that in the 2019 update to the transportation priorities plan. And so that's a 6-year plan between 2019 and 2025. We apply annually for federal money for that trail and have not been successful in doing that. If we could get some of that federal money, we could advance that faster than the county funding is available. But ultimately, we would very much like to have a continuous shared use path for that entire for the entire length of Gunston Road. Right now, it's envisioned to go from Route 1 to the entrance of Mason Neck Park, but we've begun speaking with I guess it's the National Wildlife Service that has the marsh area down there just past the Mason Neck Park entrance to ultimately connect that entire distance. But we can check to see if there's any portions of Gunston that is being paved, and by chance there's an opportunity to do a shoulder for a climbing lane. But really what we're looking for in that area is to develop a shared use path. That's a very important ecotourism, recreational part of the Mount Vernon district. And so the type of facility that we would want to be useful for families, kids, and that would not be an on-road facility for families and kids.
Thanks, Chris. I have another one. Additionally, are there plans to make or add an elongated multi-use bike lane on Rolling Road? I have taken the CCT in certain parts, but there is still a dangerous place where we have to cross the street on a 45-mile-per-hour road.
So Rolling Road is going to be widened between Keene Mill Road and the Fairfax County Parkway. And as part of that, there will be a trail as part of that construction. So for that section between Keene Mill Road and the Fairfax County Parkway Trail, there won't be on-road bike lanes, but there will be a trail on the sidewalk as part of that construction. I'm not trying to picture the cross-county trail. The cross-county trail hits Pohick and goes off to the south down at Pohick down there. So, and that's just west of Rolling Road. So I'm not picturing where the cross-county trail hits Rolling Road in my head. But the section of Rolling Road south of Port Belvoir, there are no plans to widen it from its two-lane configuration anytime soon. I believe that is in our comprehensive plan to be a 4-lane road, but that comprehensive plan has been around since the 70s, and if we haven't widened it by now, or if we don't have plans to widen it by now, it's quite possible that it may never be widened. But there's certainly no plans to widen from Fort Belvoir south in the next few decades, and that would be the only opportunity we would have to build a bicycle facility, would be part of that road widening.
That's all that's in the chat. Jeanette, I'm going to unmute you for a second to see if you have any other questions.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeanette Corsilius. I am a resident of the Laurel Hill neighborhood. Can you all hear me? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'm also a Fairfax County alum, and I work for Fairfax County Public Schools, and I really appreciate the effort and the concentration to make Fairfax County more bike accessible, as some people have disabilities where they can't drive cars, or they don't want to take public transportation, and with the pandemic, more and more people want to bike, and I really appreciate the effort to make it more safe for our pedestrians. As we do this, the reason why I was the one asking all these questions, because I am one of those people who can't drive and I bike everywhere. So it is difficult in certain places for me to get to Springfield from Lorton. I think the eastern end of the county is more bike accessible versus the western end of the county as well. It's very difficult to access some of these areas, or you really have to go out of your way to be more safe. And so that's like the huge issue is it's easy to go south to north, but it's difficult to go east from west. And so that's just like thinking of like, there's so many places I could detail and go into, and I'd have to write probably a longer email or come to another meeting and come prepared. But that's kind of where a lot of my questions are coming from. Is just it's harder to go east from west, and you all probably are aware of that.
Sure. So yes, again, I think a great place for you to be involved, if you'd be interested, would be in this update to the trails plan and the bicycle master plan, the active Fairfax transportation plan. That's again, if you just go to our, I'm sorry, I should have had that handy tonight. Maybe Lauren could look the actual address up, but if you just go to the county's website and search for active Fairfax, I'm sure you can find our webpage for that. We really are looking for input from residents such as you, who we know are dependent on the ability to get around, not by car. And we have bus routes, but we don't have bus routes everywhere. So we're making an emphasis on our part to reach out to a diversity of the community, whether it's economic diversity, age diversity, such as youth. We know that teenagers that don't have their driver's licenses yet are often bicycle dependent to do things for their family. And again, people with varying abilities and the inability to drive a vehicle are people that need the appropriate bicycle facilities. So Fairfax County is a 275-year-old county that has a roadway, a transportation network, and a land use network that is unfortunately reflects that history. So many of the roads are literally colonial roads that were not engineered. They were old farm trails or Native American trails prior to that. So we know that a lot of our roads are not hospitable and weren't built with the modern facilities such as trails and sidewalks. One resource I would point you towards is our county's bicycle map, which is also online, but we also have old-fashioned printed maps that we could send you if you'd like one, and you could put that in the chat, and Lauren can get that sent to you. The bicycle map is really one of the few in the United States that takes into consideration the comfort of bicyclists and what we have a lot of in Fairfax County, which is residential streets and residential neighborhoods. So the bicycle map tries to lay out opportunities for folks to get around by bicycle by tying together the trails, the bike lanes, but also these residential connections, things like the Cross County Trail, et cetera. So the bicycle can go a little more out of their way than someone walking can. So you might have to go, somewhat of a circuitous route to tie, these neighborhoods and trails and stuff together. But there really is a lot of connectivity in the county. If you can find these little secret connections between neighborhoods and things like that. So look online for our bicycle map, or again, we can mail you the bicycle map. That's a great resource if you are needing to get around by bicycle today. And again, of course, as staff and Supervisor Stork, we acknowledge the challenges to getting around in our county, and we certainly are trying make that better. But the reality is that there are still challenges, but that bicycle map is a great resource to help you navigate those challenges.
I'll just add, if you can email the active Fairfax at fairfaxcounty.gov email address with your mailing information, that would be the best way to get the map, since I can't seem to find any other detailed information, even though I know you had to submit something to log in today. And then the website for the active Fairfax plan is www.fairfaxcounty.gov/transportation/bike-walk/active Fairfax. And we are also going to be coming back out to all of the magisterial districts next month, I believe, to do some further outreach for the active transportation plan. So through both that website and through a future meeting, hopefully we can get more in-depth discussion. And that is all I have for questions.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, Lauren, you can interrupt me if there are, but if there aren't, let me take this opportunity to thank everybody for your participation tonight. Thank you, Supervisor Stork and your staff. Thank you, Claudia. But most importantly, thank you, the residents who've joined us tonight. It's a large county, 1.2 million people, Mount Vernon district, over 100,000 people. And so for those of you who have taken your time tonight to join us, we really do appreciate your input. If you have comments directly on any of the things we're proposing, what we're really looking for is to make them better. So if you have constructive criticism or comments, hey, you missed something, or you can make this a little better. What we're proposing for the striping, please do. Again, when VDOT's paving maps are live, if you think we've missed something or there's a crosswalk opportunity, please let us know. But again, we really do thank you for your participation. Folks like you all who join us for these meetings, it may or may not be a little bit easier in this virtual format than coming to an elementary school, but we certainly appreciate your time and your input. And as Lauren and I have both mentioned, if you want to stay dialed into the active Fairfax transportation plan, that'll be another opportunity to provide positive input to improve your community, the community that you live in the Mount Vernon district of Fairfax County, to help guide us as staff and as elected leadership to help again give you what you're looking for in your community. So with that, I don't have my participants list up. Supervisor Stork or Diego, if you'd like to send us off. Again, we thank everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to echo Chris. Thank you very much for participation.
Okay, so I will stop sharing my screen. And again, thank everybody for joining us tonight, and take care, be safe. And thanks again for your valuable input tonight.
Good night.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Claudia. Thank you all.
Good
Appreciate all
night.
your work.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.